Well, hello everybody. I'm Michal, this is Yotam. We're co-CEO of the Institute for Democratic Education. We tried to make this lecture together, and one of the best advantages, one of many advantages of being a co is one of us speaking better English, which is Yotam. So you must excuse my English, but Yotam will help me. So Yotam, you'll start, so I get warm.
Well, okay, so now I need to speak better English. It's kind of stressful. So the year is 2014, and it's just like it's the summer 2014, and Michal and I just been democratically nominated to be the co-CEO of the Institute for Democratic Education. And then I think it's the third Gaza war start in Israel. And this war for us was a very unique one because of a couple of reasons. One is that war is always a bad, ugly, unique experience. But another two reasons I would say is that we were the head of an organization. And when you're a head of an organization that has the title democratic, when you are in a stage of war, you feel some kind of responsibility. And the other thing that happens to us is, at that time, we felt that the war is not only between Palestinians and Jews, or between Israel and Gaza. It was within the Israeli society, where we felt like something in the Israeli democracy becoming very, very fragile. And we asked ourselves a question. We are an organization that deals with democratic education for over 20 years, feeling very successful. But how can we see this success out there? And what does it mean about our work? Can we take responsibility for this situation? Should we? And this was like the first 2 weeks of our working together, and we understood that we need to have some rethinking about it, and maybe to expand our idea of what education means and where education is being made. Is it in the educational system? Or maybe it's a wider notion that the environment educates you. And what happens to my kids when they see the violence outside the door, when people in a stage of war, Jewish people between themselves start fighting? And what can we do about it? And then we thought, okay, the democratic schools, as Yaakov said, is the origin of the organization. One of their best ideas, I think, was that democracy is not something that you are being taught. It's something that you experience. And once you experience it, your mindset becomes a more democratic mindset. But if you look maybe to other perspective, where can you create more democratic mindset? Then the world opens, and you can have lots of other places where you can try to influence.
Okay, so what we thought that time was start asking again what are our purpose in the world. Yesterday Sugat talked about, or maybe it was some of the people there talk about what for, why are we doing all what we are doing, and we start to say that our purpose is to make better society to make democratic society in the end of all of it, in the long run. And then we said, how does a democratic society look? And we talked about, Yotam talked about these fights in the streets of Tel Aviv. So we said it should be shared society. It should be a society that all the different community in it can talk together, can work together, that we don't have this racism everywhere and so on. And then we start to ask, okay, so what have to be there? What kind of principles should be there everywhere? It doesn't matter if it's school, or in a factory, or in a municipality, or wherever it is. What should we see there? So we could say it's a democratic culture that's going on there. And then we make a better definition of what is this democratic principles. And we have 4 principles that now, wherever we go, we want to see it in our work, in whatever we're doing there, we ask ourselves, is this principles going on there? And we're talking about dialogue, and it's so basic in democratic education, the dialogue between people, between groups in the organization, or again, wherever we are, but we bring this methodology of dialogue. In many ways we're doing that, but it must be there. And then we talk about participatory. And it's again, a whole new, in democratic schools, it's very common, everybody is going to the parliament and making decision together and so on. But when you go to workplaces, you can't see it. Or when you go in municipalities, sometimes you can see it. And we said, that's how decisions should be taken everywhere. That's how organizations should work. Everybody should be, can have the option to influence of his life. And that's what we are doing, again, in many methodologies. Another thing is mutual responsibility. If we talked about, Yaakov talked about the different colors of everyone and the uniqueness of everybody. And we think it's the responsibility of the community to make everybody be able to be with his uniqueness and express it. But it's not enough. We think that the individual has some responsibility back to the community, and it should work together. And that is the mutual responsibility that we want to see again everywhere, and we try to make it happen in many places. And social activism, which got to do with the fact that we not only learn about things, or talk about them, or understand the idea of democratic culture, but we actually have to do it, to make it happen wherever you are, and again, influence your place. And I think it's got to do with the methodology, again, of democratic schools or other places that we actually experience these things and not talk about them. Democratic schools make democratic. Democratic society or democratic organization make it happen.
So having these 4 principles and understanding that it's not enough to talk only about education, sometimes we feel like it's kind of not fair to put everything on the shoulders of schools. Then we went exploring some different arenas. So Yaakov talked about cities and municipalities, but we started working in different places as well. Academic institutions, where the higher education takes place, which is very hierarchical, very undemocratic, and keeps the mindset of students to be a non-democratic mindset. Workplaces, when you go to businesses and how does business organization works. And there you can see a flourish of very beautiful structures, but most of the organizations are still determining our mindset. Most of the grown-up people take most of their time in their workplace. So what happens there for the mindset of the people that work there? Or if you go to communities, because it's not, communities are not only around education, they are around other places. So how can we implement these 4 principles in different arenas? This is what we try to do.
Okay, so Yotam talked about different arenas, and we follow this sentence of practice what you preach on ourselves, on our laboratory for try things and do it the way we think it should be done. It's our organization, and we start or go on doing things that make our organization more democratic. And we can see it in many structures of the organization. As Yotam said before, for example, we were elected by the people of our organization. I mean, it was some representation of the people who work in IDE, and they were committing, and we have a very long process till we got and there was more people in the organization. But now when we are the managers of IDE, we know we are there on behalf of all of the workers. And they chose us because of our beliefs and our experience and so on, but they chose us. So this is one of the things. Other things is when we wanted to do, to think about the salary of the people in the institute. You know, usually the manager said, okay, you get that and you get that, but we did it with the committee, and now all things that goes about salaries, there is transparency. Everybody knows our salary and everybody's salary, and we can talk about it and negotiate about it with all the people in the institute. And these kind of things in our daily life.
So for the last note, I would want just to say that lots of times people come to us and say, okay, democratic organization, it's inefficient. Because you talk too much and you do all this kind of stuff, but you don't do anything, you don't work. So we don't believe it. And as Michal said, when we practice what we preach, and we can see that our organization is growing all the time in influence and in terms of all kinds of things. And we can see it in other organizations, so we can very much recommend everyone, each and one of you, to think about the organization you're in, to think which mindset does it create to you, and to think how can you democratize it. And we kind of promise you, people, that it won't only be more democratic, it will be more effective, more innovative. So thank you very much.